Welcome in, boys. We're live another week. This week I'm joined obviously by Joey Work and our guest this week, former UFC Lightweight fighter, Frankie Perez. What's going on, Frankie?
Hey, what's up, Jay? What's up, Joey? Thanks for having me on, man. I'm pumped for these fights.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate you taking a few minutes. Obviously, I know you're close with Joe. We really appreciate it, though. What's going on, Joey Work?
What's up, Jay? What's up, Frankie? What up, Keggers? A couple big weeks ahead of us for MMA fans.
All right, Frank. So we'll break down the main card of UFC 251 for a few minutes, obviously, and then we'll call it a night. But I wanted to ask you a question or two about your MMA career before we talk a little bit about Fight Island and UFC 251. So the question I wanted to ask you was, I wanted to know, what was your thought process from behind when you retired early from the sport? Because I'm sure, like most fighters that make the UFC, you have to dedicate your entire life to the sport. And that's why I assume that you made it to the UFC in the first place. So when you finally made it there and you were like just in the prime of your career, when you decided to hang up the gloves, like what was your thought process? Why did that go down?
Yeah, that's everybody's famous question, man.
It is, right? It is.
I for every time I answered that question, I'd be rich. But it was a lot, man. It was a lot going through that time. What a lot of people don't know is, like, leading up to that, like I've been training since I was 17 years old. I got into this sport in jiu-jitsu, and it slowly escalated into what it was. I'm not gonna lie, I was that guy that I was like, I want to be a fighter, I want to fight, and then the first time I sparred, I got my ass beat, and I'm like, there's so much more to this game than just walking into a fight. You know what I mean? But the whole process leading up to it, I got promised the UFC probably 3 or 4 times before I actually got in there. And mentally, that was draining for me, going out there and getting promised and getting promised and getting promised. And my last fight that I got promised to go to the UFC, I lost. I lost to Chris Wade, and he ended up getting the call, and he got the call and went in and submitted somebody in the first round. And, till this day, I mean, I still think I won that fight, but it is what it is. It's the past. And when I finally got the call to the UFC, I was actually going through a lot of things with my family, and mentally, I lost my grandfather, who was like my number one human in my life. I have a great family, but my grandfather was like my rock, and then I lost my grandmother probably like a month after. So it was a lot on me. I was actually supposed to fight in that time, and I ended up calling the fight off. It's the only fight in my career I've ever called off. And literally, they both died, and I get the call to the UFC. So it was kind of like a sign, to me. Yeah, right. I was actually with Joey and all my friends when I got the call. Believe it or not, we used to go like once a year before everybody grew up and got wives and kids and got super fucking stupid. We used to actually like get all together, and like 40 of us used to go to the paintball arena, and every year it was like our annual thing, and I actually got the call there. And it was right after my grandfather died. It was probably the first active thing I did since he passed away, and I just broke down in tears. So I ended up going to fight. I fought in Boston. I fought Johnny Case, and I had the worst performance of my life. I got I got finished. He finished me in the 3rd round. I just quit. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't meant to be there, and leading up into my next fight, it was a lot on me. It was a lot of pressure. I didn't want to be that kid that went to the UFC and got cut and was 2-0 and then whatever. But leading up into that fight, I started to realize what was important in life. And I think I was 25 at that time. And I just realized that in the last, 8 or 9 years that I sacrificed so much for this sport. And, I wasn't spending enough time with my family. I wasn't spending enough time for myself or my friends. Joe can tell you, I mean, I would never go out or party or whatever. And if I did, it was like once every 6 months, if that. I was extremely dedicated, and that's all I lived and slept in blood, sweat, and tears into that sport, And when I was fighting Sam Stout, which was, you know, one of my favorite fighters growing up, everything kind of
That
just
was the head kick knockout, right?
no, it was a right hand.
Oh, okay.
But you know, when I signed up to fight him, I remember the day they called. They said, "Listen, you can go to Japan and fight this Asian dude, or you can go to Canada and fight Sam Stout." And I didn't even hesitate. I picked Sam Stout. My dad's like, "You sure?" I was like, "We're in this sport to be a world champ. We got to fight somebody like him who's been up there, who's been in the game for a very long time." And you know, it was weird. I always had like these things that would happen during fight week where it'd always make me feel comfortable. And every time I walked into the hotel, I'd always see my opponent and always be mad awkward. And then cutting weight, I would always see my opponent. And like there would be like these certain scenarios that would happen that would put me in the right mind frame that almost was like meant to be and meant for me to win. So none of that happened in fucking Boston. And when I went to Canada, it was just me and my two cornermen and my dad. And I walked into the hotel and Sam Stout standing right there. I get to my hotel room. It's 5/11, which is my birthday. And like everything kind of just started, like the domino effect started happening, you know, and I had a really, really tough weight cut. And after my weight cut, I made the decision in my bed waiting to cut weight. And that was before it was morning the morning of weight cut, weigh-ins. You know, you had to wait till 8 o'clock a fucking night to starve yourself all day. I didn't have a nutritionist or none of that. I just knew how to make weight, you know? And I was sitting in that bed suffering. And I remember I'm like, I'm fucking done. I'm done with this game. I'm done cutting weight. I want to go home. I want to see my family. I want to enjoy my life. I want to just see my friends. I just want to be around people. You know, I'm done giving myself to a sport that whether you win or lose, you're still forgotten in a week, you know, and I'll never regret my life in that game. And I'm still in it. Like I'm still going to fight. I'm still got all that. But at that specific moment, no matter how much I sacrificed, no matter how much I put in that game, my grandparents still passed away and they still died. And all that time I was training to be part of that, I could have spent more time with them before they passed. You know, two of the most impactful people in my life, and they just went like that. And the time I was in the gym, I could have been by their bedside. You know, I couldn't have saved them, but just knowing that I could have spent more time with them. And I wasn't. I was in the gym worried about going to fight somebody in front of some people that didn't give a shit who I was unless they made money off of me or whatever it was. Or if I knocked somebody out or got knocked out. And that's where I was, you know. And I'll never forget, I was in a hotel room and I called my mom. I was hysterical crying. I called my brothers and sisters and I called one of my best friends, Matt. And who's one of our best friends, Joey's best friend too. And I told them all, yo, I'm done. I'm wrapping it up. Like whatever happens tomorrow happens. And I was numb that whole time leading into
You know, I went back. It was big news too, Frankie, because I went back today to check old articles. Like that was like you were like the headline on like Bloody Elbow, MMA Junkie. Everybody had articles saying like you know, Frankie Perez retires at 26, you know, at the prime of his career. So it was like that's why I can imagine you've probably been asked that question a million times. Yeah. That's my bad.
No, you're good. I could talk about it. It's just people need to hear it from my point of view because, you know, people say, oh, he quit when he was on top, or Michael Bisping said he doesn't have the balls. And, you know, it's funny. It was big news. I didn't know how big it was. I actually gained friends from like, you know, Megan Wright from Hot 97 hit me up like, yo, what the hell's going on? I don't fucking never talk to these people in my life. You know, my boy was on his honeymoon in Antigua and watching Sports Center. He goes, bro, I wake up in the morning and you're on your headlines on Sports Center, like saying you're retired. He's like, you know, it was just the right move at that right time. And honestly, like that was one of the biggest moments of my life, you know, and I won the fight at a night bonus. My coaches were all pumped up. And the only person I didn't tell was my dad. And I told my dad I didn't want to tell him before the fight because he gets like very emotional and like, you know, I'm hypoglycemic, so he has honey and sugar at the cage side for me to make sure like I'm not fucking ready to cut. So when I did it, like even him in my corner was shocked, you know, and it was just the right thing, you know. And I took a year off. I took a year off, and I got that fight bonus, and I saved some, and then I, paid my taxes, and I fucking partied, man. I hung out with my family more than ever. I went down to Miami.
Good for you.
My friends, and we had a great time. Then I went to, and I just enjoyed my fucking life. Not worrying about making weight, not worrying about what I'm eating, laughing, and actually enjoying myself, and not like, yo, I got to wake up in the morning for practice. Yo, I got to go do this. And it's a life that I love, and I'm still a part of it, and I absolutely love every minute of it. But I
wanted to ask you that. How are you still involved in the fight game right now? I would assume that you'll always be involved in some way, right?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, I tore my ACL getting ready for a fight. So I went back to the UFC on my own terms because I had a contract still with them, and I needed to fight my contract out. It was just, I didn't want to live my life saying what if, right? And at this time, this is when social media got popular. This is when the shit talking got popular. This is when all these guys are making it famous quick and whatnot. And I don't give a shit about any of that. I am through and through as real as you can get. I don't need a show. But I wanted to fight on my contract and do it because I wanted to do it. I was missing it tremendously. And my whole life, I was always driving the bandwagon. I was always driving, making people proud, making people excited, selling mad tickets. And, anybody, if you ask, is like, oh, Frankie, what's up, man? And at least the second or third question, yo, you still fighting? You know what I mean? So that was always, it was always around. I have an entertainment company, but everybody always asks me, like, yo, you still fighting? Yo, when you fighting again? So like, it just made me seem like, yo, I need to do this for me now. And really put all my eggs in a basket and say, fuck it, let's go after it one more time, So I fought for the UFC. I've had those two fights, and I lost. I lost to Chris Wade and Mark DeCasey. Close fights. I mean, it is what it is. I've never been beat up in a fight besides the fight in Boston. It's the only loss I actually say I lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I fought. I left the UFC. I kind of revamped my whole life, my mindset. I'm a big mental person. For me, even though I made it to the UFC, I never believed in myself. It's crazy. I would be in the locker room like, I'm not meant to be here. They brought me out here to lose. Like, I suck. This, that, third. And if there's not one fighter out there that doesn't say the same thing, they're a fucking liar. And I'll tell you that first. You know what I mean? So I revamped my whole life, man. And I started training again. I started like having love for it and passion for it again. I didn't think about the big picture. And I went to that. I won. And I felt good. I was ready to go, and then I tore my ACL getting ready for another fight, and the pandemic happened. So I'm kind of just chilling and waiting my turn again,
That's awesome, man. That's it's great. It's great how easy it is for you to really talk about certain things that are just sometimes tough things to talk about for people. You know what I mean?
They are, man.
So
and it's what's hard about it too is a lot of people don't get it. It's like, to leave that spotlight. Like, now I know why it's hard for musicians to retire. Now I know it's hard for, movie actors and actresses to retire. I know I see that because
I couldn't fathom it, man. I'm a diehard to the core, like 30 hours of fight tape a week to get ready to bet MMA. I could not imagine being in that fucking cage and hearing Bruce Buffer like go and like call your name to fight, man.
Yeah,
it's just incredible.
It's pretty surreal, man. And I was fortunate in my 4 fights I was able to fight locally except for Canada. And believe it or not, I felt way more pressure when I fought here. When I went in Canada, like, I was in enemy territory. It was me and my 3 cornermen. I actually had fans out there. It was kind of crazy, and I felt so comfortable. I felt it was like when I was an amateur, I took my last amateur fights in Ohio. Nobody knew who I was. I was this Cuban kid from New Jersey. I went out there to fight, to get pro rule experience. And I was in enemy and I felt so comfortable. There was no pressure on me. And I went out and had the best performance of my life. The same thing with Sam Stout. I went out and had the best performance of my life. And it was so real that I never actually, everybody, how did it feel to knock him out? Till this day, 2020, this happened in 2015? I've never felt the aftermath from that, ever.
Right.
Never felt the aftermath of the punch. I never felt the aftermath of the crowd going crazy, the 50 Gs. I never felt the aftermath of anything. I just was numb. I was numb, you know, and that's when I realized how special this sport was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously, you know, I got a question for you. I mean,
deep. I know that got kind of deep, kind of real quick, guys.
No, that was good. That was good. I'm sure.
Bro, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I honestly can't thank you enough.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our viewers enjoyed that as well. But so obviously you trained with a lot of MMA killers. I'm wondering which fighter was the most intimidating to train or spar with?
To train or spar? Oh, my teammates, you mean?
Yeah.
Man, it mattered on the fucking day, bro. I mean, I have, you know, I'm part of one of the smallest gyms out there with the biggest record and the biggest status. I don't give a shit who you say, American Top Team, the Black Zillions, AKA, you know, my team is small, but we're the most strategic, we're the sharpest, we're the smartest, and we know how to fight. And if anybody out there can say the same, I mean, all my teammates are in the top 10 of all their divisions, if not top 15, world champs, you know, and I train with the best of the best. So it mattered on what day that you were. I mean, you could sell a pay-per-view just on sparring in that fucking you know what I mean? And I mean, I've had it out with Frankie multiple times. But Eddie Alvarez is probably one of the hardest hitting dudes I've ever sparred with, and it's like my brother, man. Me and him put endless hours of sparring in. Even Corey, you know, when Corey first came, I was a little bigger when he came, so I was sparring Corey at that time, Corey Anderson. But honestly, it's like out of everybody to spar, it was either Edson or Zabit. You know, Edson or Zabit were like, here we go. We're fighting. You know what I mean?
Bro, you ever get one of those leg kicks from Barboza, bro?
Bro, I've been getting leg kicked from Barboza since I was 21 years old.
Holy Christ.
You know, and
holy Christ.
Yeah, man. And yo, listen, Edson, Marlon, I mean, what they're capable of with their hips. Believe it or not, it's so crazy. Both of them are sick wrestlers. They just don't wrestle. But they're sick wrestlers, and it's incredible that they don't use that wrestling. But Edson's and Marlon's kicks are the most special thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, crazy. All right, we'll hop into some UFC 251 talk, man. First fight on the main card is Paige Van Zant, Amanda Ribas. The line on the fight opened up. I think Ribas was around -600. Van Zant was plus 450. It's moved considerably, though. Ribas now a $9 favorite. Comeback on Van Zant plus 600. I like Amanda Ribas' game a lot. I think she's got legitimate skills. She's a black belt, obviously, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think her stand-up has been really impressive her last few fights. I like everything about the girl. But on the flip side, like nobody really knows where Paige Van Zant's head is at, really, because I know it's the last fight on her contract. She comes off the Dancing with the Stars thing. She said publicly she makes more money selling things on Instagram than she does fighting for the UFC, right? So I think it's a really tough task for her. I don't think Van Zant probably has the skills necessary to beat Ribas, even if she's fully focused. But the question is, I mean, Amanda Ribas shouldn't be -900. Like, do you take a plus 600 flyer on Paige Van Zant, or would you stay away from the fight? How do you see that fight, Frankie?
So Joe's my gambling guy. So if I need to place bets or do any kind of betting, that's like my financial aid.
There you go.
But I honestly like Ribas a lot. The thing is with Paige Van Zant, I think she's gotten a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And I think that's why she's so successful, because, I mean, her stand-up is horrific. But she's scrappy. You know, she's always there. Like, no offense to her. I mean, she should just step away from fighting and go do what she does. You know, she's got a great thing, and she worked really hard to become who she is. She's got Dancing with the Stars money. You know, I'm sure going to be in movies eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's not a bad fighter, but she's not a good fighter. So I like Rebus. I think Rebus is sharper. I think her stand-up is sharper. I think she knows how to like bite down and get after it. And Paige really just knows how to survive.
Right.
But she's a sell. You know what I mean? You put Paige Van Zandt on a like when she fought who's that Hawaiian? Rachel.
Yep, Rachel Osvick.
Yeah, when she fought Rachel, I mean, that was like, who wasn't going to watch that fight? Whether they were the worst fighters in the world. Like, you could have sold that on Pornhub. I mean, that was like some real shit. Yeah. So,
let me ask you a question, Frankie. Do you think Amanda Rebus could finish her inside the distance?
You know what? Paige is hard to finish. That's a tough call, man. That's a tough. You know why? Because she's so strong and she's so big. You know, so I don't know where she's gonna be. But I like Rebus. I don't want to call a finish shot. I'm not. Joe's my financial advisor on that.
Yeah, at this price, at this price, it's Paige or pass for me. I'm not laying minus 100.
I agree, Joe.
That's a big flag.
But I'm off this fight. So the next one is Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas. These two fought back in May 2019, which was actually Rose's last fight. Since then, Jessica fought for the belt versus Weili Zhang, and she got KO'd in the first. Obviously, going back to that last fight, Rose was beating her up in the first round. She looked much faster and technical. They went to the second, and Jessica picked her up and dropped her on her head and basically knocked her out. So how do you think the rematch pans out here, Frank?
I like Rose.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
I'm Rose all the way. You know, Andrade is good, but you can only fight like a bulldog for so long. And she won the last fight. You know, don't call it a fluke because it is what it is. She picked her up and slammed her. It's not a fluke. Things happen. You know, that's like Randy Brown got knocked out. He was winning the whole fight. He got knocked out with a side punch in his temple. It was just – that's a freak thing. But I think Rose is sharper. I think she's so strong mentally that people like don't take her that serious. You know what I mean? Because she looks like a little kid. You know what I mean? But I like Rose all the way. I think her jab's sharp. I think she's got good takedown defense. I think she's great all around. She knows how to submit people. She's got a nasty flying armbar. I think all around she's going to be smarter. She's going to stay away from Andrade's wrestling. I think she's going to circle a lot more. I think she's going to pivot a lot more. And she's definitely going to start looking for underhooks and stuff to make sure that she doesn't get picked up and slammed. And I don't think Andrade is going to be able to keep up with her after the third.
I completely agree, man. I had a big bet on Rose in that first fight, and she destroyed her on the feet for 2 rounds, man, before she got picked up. Her footwork in the cage, I mean, who's better? Who has better footwork as a female than her? I mean, she dances around that cage like a gazelle.
Yeah, you know what it is? She's so smooth. She's so smooth, and she's confident. That's what I'm saying. Like when you guys watch the fight on Saturday, like watch her jab. Like she digs her toe into the ground. When she snaps that jab, it's like walking into a broomstick. You know what I'm saying? Like it's sharp, man. She's real sharp, and I've always liked her. Even when she was fighting Invicta, when she had the cornrows and stuff, I'm like, damn, this girl looks like she just came out of elementary school, but she's nasty. She's nasty.
So you think, barring some kind of freak, she gets dropped on her head again, right? She probably wins that fight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think she would have won the first fight too. You know, I think Andrade was just frustrated, and she just picks her up and tries to. People do that and try to take their heart away from them a little bit. Try to slow them down, and she just dropped her on her head and got lucky, which. She kind of got lucky she didn't ice pick her because she would have got DQ'd for that too. You know what I mean? So
when you watched how she got slammed on her head, man, I thought she got seriously hurt.
Yeah, that was definitely scary. That was scary. And that was, I mean, you got to give Andrade too. What a little woman like that with that kind of power, man. It's kind of crazy.
She's a bull. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, she's a bulldog. All right, the third fight, obviously it's the first of 3 championship fights on UFC 251. So Henry Cejudo decides to retire. That opens the door for Petr Yan and Jose Aldo. Now they fight for the vacant bantamweight championship next Saturday. Line opened up with Yan minus 225 favorite, and it's basically stayed exactly there all week long. The comeback on Aldo plus 190. Man, my thoughts personally are, can anybody count Jose Aldo out? Technically, no, probably not, right? He was one of the 5 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world for over 5 years. But I've been super impressed with Yan. Even before he entered the UFC, Frankie, when he was fighting that absolute championship in Russia, you could just tell that there was something different about that kid. He's proficient everywhere. He's got the motor of a 27-year-old machine, right? It appears that he hit another gear since joining the UFC. Now, the knock on him is that he hasn't exactly fought anybody, right? Jimmy Rivera doesn't look like the fighter he was when he first came into the UFC. We know John Dotson's come towards the end of his career, right? And he fights Uriah Faber just out of retirement. So that's a fair point for people that are looking to back Aldo. However, you know, since Aldo was dropped twice by Max Holloway, he has not been the same. Everybody thought he beat Marlon Moraes. I didn't. I would have given that fight 3 rounds to 2 personally to Marlon. Right now, he's a half-second slower Aldo everywhere, and we know that fighters live and die by that split-second advantage or disadvantage. So I think that he has to fight the best that he's fought in years to beat Yan on Saturday. What do you think, man?
Yeah. Well, don't mind my peanut gallery behind me. This is
Dave, walk away, please.
And that's Stace. She's I don't even know what she does here, but we pay her for something.
Yo, Frank, is everything all right here?
Yo, chill out. So I personally like Yan here. I think it's crazy that Jose Aldo made 35. I think that's pretty absurd and crazy for me. I also can't believe Edson Barbosa made 45. That just blows my mind too. Yeah. Yo, close that door. I like Yan here. I think Yan is sharp. I think he is very underrated. And I can't believe how powerful he hits. That's what blows my mind with him, is how small he is and how hard he hits. He almost fights like a Lemenchenko, was stationary, you know? Lemenchenko hits you a lot, but he doesn't have really the power. But I feel like if he sat and, really sat on his punches like Petr Yan did, he'd probably knock a lot more people out. But I like Yan here, and I'm not taking a front runner. I just think Yan all around is on his way up, and Aldo, I think, is still a force. I think he's one of the best 145ers ever to ever do it. Ever. I just think Yan is more compact, more familiar with the weight class. I think he's more understanding on what's really going on with Jose Aldo, and I think he's going to look at the Marlon fight and understand how to beat him,
Did you think that Marlon won that Jose Aldo fight?
I personally didn't watch the whole thing. But I watched, I would say 2.5 rounds. So majority of it. But I personally think that Marlon won. It was very close. It was very, very close. But I think Marlon won.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sold on Petr Yan here. Since Henry retired, UFC let Peter pick his opponent, and he picked Aldo.
How dare you?
I mean, personally, I think it's a disservice to Marlon, who already beat Aldo. Aldo lost his last fight to Marlon. So shouldn't this be Marlon versus Marlon? Should be able to pick who he wants to fight here for the belt. I personally think that Aljo and Marlon both beat Yan. So I mean, that's where I'm at on this one. But next is a co-main event. We got Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. This is another rematch, as these two fought back in December. Volkanovski obviously went after Max's legs early, and this paid dividends in the outcome of the fight. ESPN released an article today stating that Max didn't go to the gym or see any of his coaches' entire training camp. Everything was done via Zoom video conferencing. Although I don't think cardio is going to be a problem for either of these guys, I wonder if the sparring difference will. What are your thoughts on this one, Frankie?
Yeah. Well, segue back to that. I mean, I think Marlon should be able to pick his next fight. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think, the thing is, it's who's opening their mouths,
Yeah.
And if you see like what Marlon's doing now on Twitter and Instagram, he's starting to open his mouth a little bit. The thing is like Marlon knows English, but I don't think he's as confident in his English to be able to like speak his mind. But he's actually hilarious. Marlon's funny as hell. So I think slowly he'll start opening up and starting to get what he is. But it's a money thing, It's a money game. It's a complete money game, and they need something to sell. You can't sell a guy that's not going to talk any shit. I'll be honest. That's where it's at right now. But I don't know what Max is doing. You know what I mean? If Volkanovski's training, if whoever else is training, I like Max Holloway all the way. That's just where I'm going. I thought the first fight was close, even though I apologize about the chaos in the back.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
But I like Holloway. I've always liked Holloway since his first fight in the UFC. I couldn't believe at 21 years old this kid was in there, and I think he's came in. He's in his prime right now, and if anybody's going to beat Volkanovski, it's going to be him. That's just where I believe it.
Let me ask you a question. Did you watch that first fight, Frank?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that he basically won that belt by leg kicks, right? You would think Max Holloway will not let him kick him to another loss.
Yeah, I mean, that was smart on their point because Max likes to sit and throw. He has a very wide stance, and he likes to sit and throw because he pressures. Guys that pressure need to have a wide stance, need to keep that leg, that front foot solid. Even though he's a switch fighter, it doesn't matter, But I can't see Max letting those leg kicks happen again, But I feel like he's going to try to throw leg kicks, and once he starts defending them, he's going to shoot. I think that's where Volkanovski's going to go. And then once he starts defending the shot, he's going to start faking the shot and start coming up with punches. And he's going to start mixing it up, up and down, up and down. That's how Volkanovski should fight. But Max is tough, man. Max is tough. He's a bad dude. And he's good everywhere. I mean, this is the game right now, man. Everybody's so good everywhere. When I was coming up, you had jiu-jitsu guys, you had wrestlers, you had boxers, and you had some guys that did a little bit of both. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to where I came at a time where it was the beginning of cross-training. People weren't cross-training yet. If you cross-trained, then you were a shitty person. You weren't loyal. You weren't this. You weren't that, But now everybody cross-trains. Everybody's so good at everything. It's so hard for people like you who make a living off of betting these fights that, like, unless somebody is completely out in the woods, you don't know who's going to win because this is why this sport is what it is.
You're right, man. The young talent coming up in the sport right now, they have so many of these guys have no weaknesses. They're just good everywhere.
Yeah. My teammate, the beat. I mean, he's a freak of nature, bro. He's a video game and a human, and he's around my age or a little younger, but his brother is 18 years old and he's just as good, if not better than Zabit. And he's a freak, dude. The shit that I seen this kid do is unbelievable. And
yeah, the beat is the real deal, man. My only concern about Zabit is his gas tank in the third round. Aside from that, I think he's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And that's always going to be a thing with him when you have a guy, he's bigger than me, and he cuts to 45, he's bigger than me. So, I mean, that's always going to be a thing until you get a nutritionist. I think he's getting smarter with it, though, because when he first came here, he used to walk around in a lot heavier weight, and now he walks around super light, and he does a lot of running. But in time, I think it'll get better for sure. Eventually, he's not going to end his career at 45, though. He's definitely going to end it at 55. He's going to go to 45. He's going to win the belt and then go up to 55 and stay there, But his gas tank, man, when we train, dude, we go hard. And Zabit's a volume guy. He throws a lot. He moves a lot. And it's just with time, I think he'll understand the whole diet process, you know?
Yeah. All right. We'll get you out of here on this last fight. Usman Burns. I think it's a tough fight for me personally, man. We cashed on Gilbert Burns as an underdog 4 consecutive fight nights on our show. I think he's the real deal. Everybody knew how good he was on the mat because he was a multiple World Cup jiu-jitsu champion. What nobody respected in Burns was his stand-up game.
Right.
And over the last 18 months, his striking game has turned into a very hard thing to deal with, man. He's excellent at range. He's accurate when he steps inside the phone booth and bangs. His hand speed is faster than people thought. The angles that he attacks from are rock solid because of how underrated his footwork is. All that said, I think he's probably a year early. I don't think there's a welterweight in the world right now that can beat Usman other than Colby Covington, personally. Because Covington, if he would have got through that 5th round, the judges' scorecards tell you that he would have been the champion. So, I mean, I think in a rematch, I would probably lean Colby. As much as I like Gilbert Burns and as tempted as I am to take him as an underdog again, I just think that Usman's wrestling is just going to be too much right now. What do you think?
Yeah, man. So I'm actually boys with Usman, and I'm cool with Burns, and I like both of them. I think they're both great fighters. I trained with Usman before, and Usman is very, very unorthodox. He is very strong, and he doesn't. What's crazy about him? He's so calm and so smooth that he doesn't waste a lot of energy. It's like the craziest thing. Like, I would put him in bad positions and he would just get out, like nonchalantly, like taking your jacket off. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the weirdest thing. And I know him and Zabit went at it. And when Zabit started putting it on him, he ended up taking him down and just, winning the round. So it was pretty incredible watching that dude train. And I'm surprised that this fight's actually happening. But I agree with you. I think Usman is definitely I think Burns is definitely a year too early. I like Usman in this fight, especially that they used to train. So that always puts like a good little chip on everything, Gilbert knew what he used to catch Usman with. Usman knows what he used to catch Gilbert with. I don't think there's any bad blood there. This is all about being the best, and it's all about getting paid. It's all about being the top dog, I think Usman is way sharper. I think Usman has better wrestling. I think Gilbert has better jiu-jitsu, but he can get in a dogfight too, But if we saw at the Colby fight, I mean, if Usman got hit with 6 punches, he threw 8, So that's what I wanted to see out of Usman, to realize, like I always said, there was a few fighters out there that I always said would be world champs if they changed their lifestyle or changed up and the way they fought by biting down a little bit and getting after it. Usman was one of them. Cody Garbrandt was one of them. Henry Cejudo was one of them. And Amanda Nunes. And I always said that personally, I wasn't like, I'm not a fucking mind reader, you know what I mean? I just always said, I'm like, damn, these, and they were all different times, but I always said when I first saw Cejudo fight, I'm like, man, this kid could be a world champ, but he needs to like change 2 things up. He needs to be able to like be stick and move and sit on his punches a little more. And same thing with Nunes and like Usman. I always wanted to see him like in a fight. Like all his fights, he was always winning the whole time. He like that kid never lost a round for I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
And then when he fought Kobe, I was actually impressed with Kobe. I didn't realize Kobe was that good. But the fact that they both went at it like that, I don't see anybody being Usman for at least 2 years. That's just me personally.
I'm on the same page, man. What do you think, Joey?
Yeah, I agree. I like Usman in this fight, but minus 240 may be too rich for me.
Yeah. And I like Gilbert. Gilbert's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. He's just a little too reckless abandonment for me. You know what I mean? He's just a little too reckless. I feel like he can get caught in between his punches.
You can get Usman within the distance plus 295,
yeah.
but
you think it goes full 5 rounds?
No, I think Usman can finish him. I think Usman's been there before, and I think the pressure of the title fight. I think the quick turnaround could get to him. I think being on an island could get to him. There's a lot of things that go in the works with these that people don't understand. You have to take into consideration. I don't care if you had the best 15 weeks of your life. Going into a completely different territory with a lot more media, a lot more circumstances to uphold. Okay, you're going into an island during a pandemic. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of different things. Even though the UFC is hands down killing it right now and doing all the right things and making sure all the fighters have, it's still mentally here, man. It's mentally here. When it comes to being a world champ, you have rankings and then you have world champion. You know what I'm saying? And that's when you fight for that title, man. There's so much that comes along with that I've witnessed from my teammates dealing with it. Right. That it's hard to even have it resonate with yourself to understand that I'm fighting for a world title and the whole world's gonna be watching.
I got one more question for you before you go.
Yeah.
How impressive has Charles Oliveira been the last 18 months?
Yeah, man.
How far do you think he can go?
He can. He was another one, man. I always said he can be a world champ, but he kind of. It's kind of weird, man. And I feel like I'm almost in the same shoes with some of these guys. I'm just taking a little bit more time to get back over the hill, But a lot of these guys, if you see like Charles Oliveira, bro, he's been fighting since he was young. He fought a Ring of Combat. I remember Charles Oliveira before he made it to the UFC when he was submitting guys in the first round in 30 seconds, 45 seconds. He was submitting everybody. And then he got into the UFC. He had his hype train. And then he started losing, opened up a gym, went back to Brazil. There's a lot of these fighters now that kind of were win 1, lose 2, win 3, lose 1, kind of like in that range, kind of like a journey fighter. And then they stop completely, take a year, take 2 years off, come back, and they're just balls of fury like Charles Oliveira, man, and got nothing to lose. That's how you have to fight. You got to go out there fighting like you got nothing to lose. You got to be smart. You got to leave it all out of the trunk, and you just got to go out there completely clear-minded, listen to your coaches, and fight like you got nothing to lose. And I feel like that's how Charles Oliveira is fighting right now. I feel like that's how Jimmy Miller's fighting right now. Who else is on a tear right now? I feel like that's how Gilbert Burns, because I thought Gilbert Burns was going to get cut from the UFC. That's how a lot of these guys, man. That's how a lot of these guys are fighting now that, took some time off, kind of like revamped their life. I don't know what kind of pills they're eating. I would love to know. But I feel like Charles Oliveira's on a tear right now, and I feel like he's going to fight for a title if he keeps going within a fight or two.
Well, bro, thanks for repping Jersey, man. And I can't thank you enough for giving us 40 minutes. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. I'll come on here whenever you guys want. I appreciate it. I talk a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks,
listen, man, one night when you're free, if you want, we watch the fights and we bet all night. Anytime. You got an open invitation. Anytime you're bored and you want to pop on.
I appreciate it. Talk to my financial advisor there, and he'll.
I will do that. I will do that.
But I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Hey, well, real quick, rest in peace to Khabib's dad. If you guys don't know, shout him out. That's a super, super influential dude in the sport, in so many different aspects. And not just raising one of the best fighters in the world, but also everything that he does in Dagestan and Russia. And
do you know what happened, Frankie? Was it the virus? Was it COVID?
I don't know personally. I know he had a heart attack, and then he had to get medevac to Moscow, and he was recovering. And then I didn't hear anything more until now, recently, where they said it was something to do with COVID complications. So I found out like everybody else did on social media. Khabib is somebody I've never met personally. Actually, I met him once. Very nice guy, but I know him through my teammates because he has the same manager as a lot of my teammates do. So, but talk about respectful honest, and we train with a lot of the Dagestan guys, and Khabib is like God, and his father is like the Almighty, and it's just this time right now is a crazy, crazy time, and to lose somebody like that during this time is even tougher. So I just wanted to say that, man. Rest in peace to Khabib's father, and we send all our love and condolences out to them.
Thank you very much, man. We appreciate it.
So, but I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Frankie. Follow him.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care, guys.
All right.
Peace
Bye.
out.
What a cool dude, man.
Yep.
What a cool dude.
His Instagram and Twitter at Team Frankie Perez. If you want to follow him, guys.
Frankie Perez.
Yep.
There you go. Another Jersey guy. You can't fuck with Jersey on this show. I'll tell you that much.
That's right.
All right. So we'll take 5 minutes and run down. I think I agree with him. I think, man, I know there are people that I respect in the industry, and just like MMA journalists that are taking the shot on Burns. I just can't do it. I think he's a year out, maybe a year and a half away from really being able to do it. Do you think he can get it done inside the distance?
Usman, you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly Usman plus 295. That's a nice number too. So I know his last, other than the Colby fight, 4 before that all went to decision, but I think only the Tyron one was for the belt. So he's adding another 2 rounds, so it's probably worth it at plus 295. I'm not going to lay the minus 240 on Usman, and I'm not going to take Burns. So that's probably the way to look.
If he's plus 295 inside the distance, what's the total? It's got to be what? Like what the fight to go the distance? Do you have odds on that?
Fight goes the distance minus 180.
Yeah. So I would have thought it would have been even higher than that, considering that he's plus 295 to get it done inside.
Yep.
Aldo and Jan, are you taking Aldo, you fuck?
I probably am, yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna bet against Jan this
You're
fight.
gonna bet against me on the betting show. We'll be rooting on opposite sides.
I'm gonna bet against Jan this fight, his next fight. And he'll probably fight Aljo next. And I'll take Aljo all day over him too.
Amanda Ribas, Paige Van Zandt, are you tempted at all to take the flyer at plus 600?
Yeah, it's Paige or nothing, definitely. And I'll see where I'm at. I'm not going to bet it before the fight. Maybe if we're on the KegCast live, I might sprinkle something. Yeah, depending on where I'm at there, but I'm not going to bet it before.
What do you think about this Volkanovski fight? I'm really torn, man. My gut says Volkanovski, but my heart says Max.
Yeah, I was leaning Max, and then when
did Joey just freeze up, or did I freeze up? Can anybody hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, you guys can hear me. Joey froze. All right. Kid, he has somebody come to his house to work on the internet. Come on, Joey, work? What are you doing over there with the internet?
I'm friggin' plugged right into the router. The guy came today. He was here for 4 hours he gave me a booster and all this shit. On the house, he gave me a booster. I gave him some cash in his pocket. Yeah, he goes, I'm not going to charge you. And he said it like twice, meaning he wanted a tip. So I was like, all right, I'll give you a little tip, buddy.
Getting internet electronics on the arm? Look at you.
I mean, I didn't ask him. He just offered. He was a nice guy. you know?
Yeah. But what do you think? What do you think with the Volkanovski fight?
Yeah, so I was leaning Holloway, and now I heard the news that he hasn't trained. He hasn't even seen any of his coaches until today. It was the first time he saw them. All he's doing was over Zooms. But then I also read into it, and he was saying that, at this point of his career, he doesn't really need to spar. Usually he gets an injury in his training camp. This time he doesn't have an injury. So I'm just like crossing between, if they had the team there, they would be able to set a game plan between like against the kicks, and I don't know if they set that, if they're going to set that in 2 days, it's kind of scaring me away there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm undecided right now.
The only bet I've made so far is I'm on Rose big at -180. I think is what I got her at. I bet her for a couple few dimes. I just don't see. I think Jessica Andrade is going to have to dump her on her head again in order to win that fight, and I just don't think she's going to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even like Rose and Zhang have already had like contact that Zhang already said, "Oh, I would love to fight Rose." So they're already leading into this, and I do think Rose is the better fighter. She proved that in the first fight. It was just not a fluke, but somewhat. And I think Rose is not going to allow her to pick her up, somehow stop her from her picking her up, because she did it like 2 or 3 times last fight. And I would expect this one to get finished before we go to the judges too.
Inside the distance, you think, huh?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. All right, boys, we're out. All we got going on this weekend in terms of the live betting show is Sunday about 3:00. We'll be on for the Brickyard 400, the NASCAR race at Indianapolis, and that's it. And then Monday we hit the ground running hard. We'll have a couple videos on the Run Pure Bets channel. Anybody that's not already subscribed to JJ's old channel at Sports with Facts, run over there and do it, because that's where all our content will be after this weekend's race. The fight casts on July 11th will be over there, the Run Pure Bets YouTube channel. It's still free, obviously, for now, until the subscription service starts. So we will see you guys on Sunday. I know you guys asked me for a NASCAR pick. I don't have anything yet, boys. I'm not even gonna lie to you. If I see anything in the Xfinity race tomorrow, I'll be betting it. Maybe I'll tweet something out, and then Sunday morning I'll do all my prep work for the race on Sunday. So you guys, I know a lot of you guys will be eating ribs at a barbecue. I know Joey will. So just check in before the race starts, and I'll give you guys whatever I'm on. So that's it. Other than that, we got nothing. We will see you guys on Sunday, and then you'll see Joey obviously next Saturday for the fight cast, and next Friday night we'll do it again. Have Joey will work his magic and bring somebody on, and then that's it. And then you'll see him on Saturday for the fight cast. So, ready to call it a night, Joey? Work?
Yes, sir. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Stay safe.
Oh yeah, yeah. And listen, if you guys have kids, right? Don't let their fucking hand blow up from fireworks. All right, like light the fireworks for them, so they have. Yeah,
you don't want it yourself though too. We don't need any JPP accidents,
Right. But we want 10-year-old kids to have all their digits. Yeah. So light the fucking firework for them. All right. Other than that, we'll see you guys on Sunday. We're out. Back after this.